story number 3. Now this story again relates to that line I shared earlier in story number 1 about the holiest of all places on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love. Now this line is particularly relevant in this story. This is a story about my dad. And in this lifetime, there'll never could possibly be another person that I could hate as much as I hated him. From a very early age, I just hated him. He was mean to my mother, mean to us kids, but mainly to my mother, whom I adored. And I just hated him. I hated everything about him. All kinds of things about him became like pet peeves of mine throughout my whole life. In spite of the fact that I hated him, I tried to emulate him to some degree. I had gone to the Air Force Academy because he would love to have me become a military man like he was. At least he was in the wars. And anyway, to spite him, of course, I got expelled and kind of went through my life trying to do whatever I could. It seems to disappoint him. In fact, he would always say that his biggest disappointment in life was me getting thrown out of the Air Force Academy. So, at certain stages of my life, I just totally ignored him. Sometimes in my life, I actively tried to heal my relationship with him. I remember after going through a men's initiation process, I thought, I need to bond with my dad, and tried to go back east, and I'm living out in Minnesota, tried to connect with him, and it was always pretty futile because he was just so egotistical. All he ever wanted to do was talk about himself. If I ever tried to share anything great about me, he'd laugh and go, well, let me tell you about me. So it was a very, very, very deeply hurtful and disappointing relationship. But after years and years of working with A Course in Miracles, I was determined to find a way to love him in spite of all that hatred. But as best I could try, it really always came up short. So now I'm in my early 50s and been married now a number of years, and my stepdaughter, who's in her, she's in her early 20s, middle 20s perhaps, she's working with the elderly, and she got to know my dad and liked my dad pretty much. A lot of other people liked my dad. He was a funny, entertaining kind of guy. It's just when you're his son, it's harder to appreciate that. But anyway, Jenny said to me once, boy, from what you're sharing about your dad, it sounds like he's getting ready to die. I think you should go back and see him before he dies. And I remember just thinking, she's right, this will be the last chance I get to see him. I'm going to go back. And I made a decision not only to go back, but to go back alone and to somehow find a way to bless him and myself before he passed. I remember praying to the Holy Spirit, please, I have no idea how to do this. Whenever I've tried, I keep running into this thing about him that I just despise. Please show me. I need a miracle. Show me how to do this. So I go back with the intention of spending a weekend, staying with my elder sister who lives not far away from my dad. She's always been his caregiver and all that. So I stay with her. I go to see my dad Friday night. He's drinking as always, sitting in front of the TV, smoking a big fat cigar, being an asshole. I'm thinking, oh great, this is not going to go well. I have no way to really connect with him other than, hi Dad. And by now he's too sick to even play cribbage. We used to always do that one thing that we both enjoyed, but he's too sick now to play cribbage. He's not too sick to drink and smoke cigars, but can't quite manage cribbage. So we sit and talk for a little while the TV's blaring, and I'm thinking, okay, I have no idea how this is going to work. Go back to my sister's, reeking of smoke. Go back the next day, again determined to find a way, and I asked the Holy Spirit, please help me. I'm sitting with my dad on the couch, again the TV's on, he's reading his paper. It's like, this is impossible. All of a sudden, I have this impulse, because he's been locked up in this small, little subsidized, it was a cinder block, little apartment, just a tiny room, little kitchen, his sleeping room, all one, little bathroom, tiny place. The windows are always closed. The place is like thick with goo from his cigar smoke. So I get this bright idea, I'm going to clean his kitchen. I tell my dad, hey Dad, I'm going to scrub your kitchen. And he could care less. He's like, okay, I think he was glad I was there, but he could care less. I mean, he's going to be dead in a week or two. I'm going to clean his kitchen. Well, I get some cleaner stuff and a big sponge and a bucket, and I start doing the walls, the cabinets, again, it's like this kind of brown goo on everything. So I'm cleaning it, and I'm squeezing out spongeful after spongeful of this brown liquid down the drain. And suddenly I get it. This brown liquid is my hatred of my father. It's like a revelation, a light goes off. Suddenly I get so excited. I have a chance to wash all this hatred down the drain. So like I spend the next 6 hours happily scrubbing his kitchen, top to bottom, floor, ceiling, walls, cupboards, glasses, plates, everything. I'm scrubbing clean, just getting higher and higher as I realize that I'm releasing all my hatred. So I'm just having the best time. Every once in a while I'd say something, talk to my dad, but mostly I'm just doing what I'm doing. He's doing what he's doing. And I'm finding this release. By the time I'm done that afternoon, I say goodbye. Again, I'm going to go spend the evening at my sister's, but I'm in a really good mood. I realized what had gone on that day. And I realized that night, I can't wait to go back Sunday morning to do the final thing, whatever that is. And I still don't know what it is. But I just feel so free. I feel so light. I feel like this burden has been lifted. I don't have all this hatred inside me anymore. So I go back Sunday morning. And again, I'll go in and, I'm just going to visit for a little while and go to the airport and go back to Minnesota. So I go in, and actually, even after all this stuff happened on Saturday, there's still this recognition of, okay, well, this is awkward again. I don't know what, we don't have anything to talk about. So I'm just sitting there for a little while, feeling a little uncomfortable. And then I just realize, well, just don't make more of this. Just, it's time to go. Say goodbye. So I get up in front of him. He's sitting in his big old recliner chair that he hasn't gotten out of, I'm sure, in weeks. It's all, you can even see it's all grimy from even the back of his head being against the pillow. It's really a very sad picture, this lonely old guy. But I stand in front of him, and suddenly again I'm filled with this now incredible wave of love. And I just stand there looking down at him, and I just look him in the eyes, very similar to what I shared at my sister's memorial service. And all I'm feeling is this incredible love for this man. And I look at him, and he starts crying. And I say, Dad, I love you so much. And he's kind of nodding, I know. And he kind of mumbles, I love you too. And I said, Dad, I know I'm never going to see you again. And he's like recognizing, yeah, I know. I said, I just want you to know how proud I am to be your son. And he's crying, and he's, I'm proud of you too. And it's just like this beautiful scene in my heart is just glowing with love. Then I reach down, and he's really blubbering now, and I just hold him for a minute, give him a big hug. And then I turn away and walk to the door. And the most surprising thing was this last little piece of the miracle. Because when I was born, he was in the military. He didn't see me for quite some time after I was born. And again, I'd always wanted to be in the military, the part of me, the little boy that wanted to emulate my dad. But that never worked out. But here I get to the door, and this comes totally spontaneously. I'm seized by this impulse to suddenly whip around and salute my dad. And he salutes me back. And then I leave, and I'm walking out to the car going, oh my God, that was amazing. That was the most perfect ending to the story with my dad that I could ever possibly imagine. And I just knew that the Holy Spirit had come through and delivered another amazing miracle. And I knew from that moment I would never think another thought about my dad that wasn't a loving thought.